temperatures are starting to drop. And instead of like most people, we actually decided that, oh, it's getting colder, we might as well get new chicks for our flock. And there's so many reasons why I love raising baby chicks in the fall and winter. There are so many pros and cons, and it is definitely a little black sheep of me to be doing this. The most common time to be getting chicks is in the spring. Those are when chick days start at your local Tractor Supplies or feed stores. And spring is definitely just the time of new beginnings, fresh starts. But I love getting chicks in the fall and winter, and you can definitely always get your chickens to lay eggs. If you have a broody chick, you can have them hatch out those eggs during this time. Most of the time, they're not naturally going to want to do this because it's just a weird time. They're conserving their energy, and they're really using that energy to keep themselves warm during the winter. So if they naturally aren't doing this, you can always purchase chicks. We got ours from Myers Hatchery. I will include a link down below. This is not sponsored, but we do love our chicks there. They're really happy and really strong growing chicks. And I think the winter is great for so many reasons that we're going to talk through today. And the first one is your feed to egg production. Now, it usually takes a pullet, which is a hen or a female chick, around 5 to 6 months to start laying eggs. So if you're getting your chicks in the spring, let's say March, April, May, June, that means that by the time that they're going to be starting to lay eggs is going to be more in the fall. And once it starts to get into your shorter days, as well as your colder months, they often are not going to be producing as many eggs, or might not be producing eggs at all. By getting your chicks in the winter or the colder months, what we love about this is for those colder months, they're actually growing older. They don't need to be worrying about producing eggs because they're not going to until they're 5 or 6 months anyway. And then by the time spring, summer comes, I'm actually getting a lot more eggs because they're going to start producing them at those times. I also love it because as the days are getting the peak coldest days, which you can actually see my breath, and frost is starting to form on the ground. So we're getting colder and colder days. Our baby chicks are actually feathering out. So they're starting to grow out their feathers and create a system that's going to warm them a lot more. So when I'm into like deep January, February, March, those really, really cold months, because we're here in the beginning of December right now, that means that they're going to be fully feathered out by this time, and I can actually release them into the outside. Right now, they're actually in my basement. I have a nice brooder setup for them. We are using a high quality feed, which is really important. We use NatureServe, and we use the chick feed, which is packed with essential oils and ingredients that they need to grow big and strong. We make sure to always provide fresh, accessible water that is not frozen, as well as a good heating source. We use a heat lamp. I have always used a heat lamp. I think that it does a lot better than heating pads. There's the like heat systems. We've not had so much luck with those. Although if you do have a broody hen, you can also have that naturally warming yours. But we love our just heat lamp, and we use an Inkbird, which I will link down exactly what we use for our brooder setup. But it is so great because what it will do is will actually fluctuate the temperatures. So if it gets to a certain point, it will turn off your light. If it doesn't get to that, it will keep it going, and it turns it on and off, and it really keeps the right environment for them. Another fun fact and reason why I love raising chickens in the winter is they're really shown to have stronger immune systems. They're more resilient to seasonal changes, especially you do want to make sure that you're getting the right breeds for your areas. Breeds that if it is cold and snowy around by you, then you are getting ones that can deal with that and they're a hardier bird. But oftentimes their immune systems are going to be a lot stronger than chicks that are necessarily born and raised in the spring because they're born into the harsher temperatures and they just build up some of those immunities. Another great thing is there's usually less diseases in the winter. Because it's colder, diseases do not thrive. They're not growing and multiplying as much as they do in the heat of summer. So we found that it's a lot less disease ridden, and we've had a higher success rate from getting 1-day-old chicks and raising them throughout their entire adult life when starting in the winter. In a homestead, there are so many things to be done, and doing chickens in the winter actually allows you to have much more time because your garden is already asleep for the most part. So you can really focus on just raising your baby chicks. You've already done a lot of your canning, prepping, food work, and the winter is usually a time where you can hunker down and just do planning work. So why not utilize this time to start baby chicks? Baby chicks are a lot more intensive than actually having your backyard chicks because they require more daily care, making sure that you're feeding, watering, and looking after them on a daily basis. But in the winter, you have more access to time because you're not needing to tend to your garden, tend to all the things going on around your homestead, which is why we also love doing it in the winter because it just allows you more ability to focus on your baby chicks. When raising baby chicks, one hard part is actually integrating them into an already existing flock. There can be little battles that go on, and oftentimes it can be hard to know exactly when to integrate them into your existing flock. What's great about raising chicks in the winter is we'll raise our chicks in our basement in a nice brooder setup. They'll start to feather out, and then we're able to actually integrate them into the existing flock when they are much closer in size to our current chickens, which does reduce a lot of the tension that's going to be there. We found that the chickens are not as feisty in the winter because they're just kind of chilling out, doing their own thing, and it's a lot easier to integrate them into the flock. If you are deciding to raise chickens in the winter, there are a few items that you can do to make sure that you're successful. Number one is warmth is critical. Every chick that you have needs to be warmed. Whether it's in the heat of summer or the cold dropping temperatures of the winter, you need to make sure that you're providing a warm, safe space for your chick. That means safe from predators, and that means safe from the harsh temperatures that can happen in dropping cold temps. We keep our chicks inside of our actual house in a smaller brooder for the first 1 to 2, 3 weeks until they get a little bit bigger, and then we bring them down into our unfinished basement where we have a bigger brooder setup. We have a nice big stock tank that we purchased from Home Depot. You can also get it from any of your local feed stores, and we line it with a nice bedding of wood shavings. We have feed, water, and a heat source. We found that during the winter, it can actually be really easy to keep it warm down there because our basement's already pretty warm from just being attached to our house. Now, this is a really great way to keep your chicks warm, and you do need to make sure that you are keeping them warm. And then each week you can be decreasing that temperature by around 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Once you're reaching temperatures where they can be let outside, then you can go ahead and integrate them into your coop or into a setting that is outside. And they'll be a lot bigger. They will be feathered out by that time, so it's gonna be a lot easier to integrate them into there. You do want to also make sure that you have a really good area that is safe from draft. Now, making sure that they have a good heat source is really important, but you want to make sure that you give them ventilation so air can travel in and out of their nice brooder and setup that they have in, but you're not allowing for harsh winds or any water, snow to get in there because that can really hurt them. It can cause them to get frostbite, it can cause them to get sick, and it can inevitably cause them to pass. So really make sure that you're creating a space that there's gonna be harsh drafts in and you aren't gonna be getting wet from the snow or rain. And lastly, always important is giving them enough fresh, clean water, as well as feed. Again, we love NatureServe. We feed that to all of our chickens here at our homestead, and they're very happy, healthy, and always laying beautiful eggs. I hope that if you're thinking about raising chicks in the winter, this was helpful, inspirational, and you can get started this year or at least next year. And we'll see you guys again next time. Bye.